While Putin focuses on Ukraine, he's missing a quieter disaster unfolding in the Baltic Sea. This sea isn't symbolic, it's vital. Over 80% of Russia's oil exports move through it. That makes the Baltic Russia's economic lifeline, and today, NATO is sitting on it. With Finland and Sweden inside NATO, the Baltic has effectively turned into an alliance-controlled basin. Russia's crown jewel port, St. Petersburg, is being slowly boxed in, less a gateway, more a trap. Moscow noticed too late. Unable to dominate on land, Russia shifted tactics beneath the waves. Shadow tankers, intelligent ships, and hybrid warfare followed. The real targets weren't navies, but Europe's undersea cables, pipelines, and data lines. Energy and communication blackmail became the new pressure tool. NATO took it seriously, but Scandinavia went further. Instead of just ships and patrols, engineering became the weapon. In Helsinki, a radical idea took shape: permanently connect Scandinavia to Europe. A massive undersea rail tunnel linking Helsinki to Tallinn, concrete and steel replacing vulnerability. This isn't just infrastructure, it's strategy. Missiles can move, navies can retreat, but tunnels rewrite geography. Putin may still chase land empires, but at sea, the empire that powered Russia is quietly slipping away, and it's happening without a single shot fired.
This project is not a metro line, it's a geostrategic bypass. By tunneling under the Baltic Sea, Finland stops being a vulnerable maritime endpoint and plugs directly into Central Europe's rail network. Once completed, military and commercial cargo can move south without ever surfacing, out of reach of Russian ships, missiles, or blockades. That single fact changes everything. Russia can threaten sea lanes. It cannot threaten what it cannot see. While Russian warships fight storms above, NATO tanks and ammunition move below at 100 kilometers per hour, quiet, fast, and protected. The naval blockade threat simply collapses. And this isn't the only move. In the north, Finnish industry is pushing new bridge and tunnel links via Turku and the Åland archipelago, effectively sealing off the Gulf of Bothnia. The result? Russia's maneuvering space in the northern Baltic shrinks to zero. This strategy isn't theoretical, it's proven. The model comes from the Øresund Bridge linking Denmark and Sweden. Millions of vehicles, hundreds of millions in annual revenue, and more importantly, a logistics artery that works even in crisis. Now Finland is planning another link, the Kvarken connection between Umeå and Vasa. This isn't just economic infrastructure, it's a military backup route. Even if southern sea lanes are threatened, NATO could move supplies from Norwegian ports to Finland and toward Russia's border within minutes. Above the sea, patrols and storms. Below it, uninterrupted logistics. And at the center of all this sits Gotland. Military planners call it an unsinkable aircraft carrier. With Sweden and NATO, sensors, air defenses, and coastal missiles on Gotland now dominate the South and Central Baltic. The corridor between St. Petersburg and Kaliningrad has become a kill zone. No dramatic battles, no headlines, just steel, tunnels, bridges, and a strategic reality Russia can't reverse. This changes everything. Today, Stockholm effectively decides what enters and exits Kaliningrad, even which air corridors Russian military transport aircraft can safely use. Russia's most strategic western base is no longer secure, it's constrained. But logistics are only the surface problem. Look at the map like a general, not a politician. The iron ring forming in the Baltic Sea is just the opening move. Sweden has openly stated its intent to acquire long-range weapon systems up to 2,000 kilometers in reach. That's not a technical upgrade, that's a geopolitical shockwave. Measure the distance. Stockholm to Moscow is roughly 1,000 kilometers. In modern warfare, that's not depth, that's frontline. When Swedish Defense Minister Paul Jansson talks about creating stronger deterrence, the subtext is unmistakable. Defense no longer stops at borders. The option to strike deep now exists, and Russia knows it. This shatters a centuries-old assumption. During the Cold War, Scandinavia functioned as a neutral buffer. Today, that buffer is gone. In its place stands a high-tech NATO spear pointed straight at Russia's core. The Kremlin's long-used warning, "NATO is approaching our borders," has come true, not by conspiracy, but as a direct consequence of Moscow's own aggression. Military headquarters in St. Petersburg, air bases near Novgorod, even strategic sites outside Moscow, all now sit within range of NATO's conventional weapons. Russia's western strategic depth has vanished. And the response? Re-establishing the Leningrad military district. This isn't strength, it's an admission, a defensive reflex, a signal of strategic anxiety. Russia isn't just facing pressure, it's facing a encirclement, surrounded by NATO states in the Baltic, with no safe rear area left. The geography of war has shifted, and it has reached Moscow's doorstep. This northern wall, led by Finland, reduces Russia's strategic depth in the west to zero. Russian planners now treat the Baltic Sea and the Arctic Ocean not as separate theaters, but as connected and compromised fronts. What Scandinavia has built isn't just military pressure, it's economic strangulation. Since Peter the Great, St. Petersburg was Russia's window to Europe. Today, that window is closing. The port is turning into a concrete pier on what is effectively a NATO-controlled lake. Every ship, every tanker, every submarine now moves under alliance surveillance and constraint. In trying to preserve an empire, Putin has turned its gateway into a cell. With the Baltic sealed, Moscow looked north, to the ice. The Arctic was supposed to be the escape route. Russia's 2022 maritime doctrine and 2023 foreign policy doctrine made this clear. Militarize the Arctic, dominate energy, and turn the Northern Sea route into a new Suez Canal. On paper, it worked. In reality, Finland and Sweden joining NATO shattered the plan. The brutal truth for Russian strategists is this: the Baltic and Arctic can no longer be separated. Retreating north doesn't create safety, it deepens isolation. Ice and distance once protected Russia. Now, NATO's icebreakers, satellites, and Arctic units have turned that shield into a trap. And the crisis peaks on the Kola Peninsula. Home to Russia's Northern Fleet and core nuclear deterrent, this region was once considered untouchable, the final bastion. Today, new Scandinavian logistics and NATO technology have stripped away its invisibility. What Moscow believed was a fortress now looks disturbingly transparent. The further Russia retreats, the narrower its options become. This isn't just pressure, it's a strategic collapse by geography. And geography doesn't negotiate.
On January 14, 2025, NATO unveiled something quietly devastating: Baltic Sentinel. Officially, it's a system to protect undersea infrastructure in the Baltic Sea. In reality, it's a permanent surveillance tower, listening, tracking, and recording Russian activity from the Baltic to the Arctic in real time. This is the nightmare scenario for Moscow. As Russia tries to replace lost strategic depth in the Baltic by retreating north, it runs straight into NATO's digital eyes and icebreaker strategy. The moment Russian nuclear submarines leave port, their acoustic signatures are detected, classified, and logged into NATO's network. And that destroys deterrence. The power of a nuclear submarine lies in uncertainty. If its location is known, it stops being a weapon and becomes a vulnerable metal shell. Russia's invisibility cloak is gone. Cornered economically and strategically, Moscow has turned to a last resort: China. Russia's latest foreign policy doctrine quietly opens the Arctic to constructive partners, a coded invitation to China. This isn't strength, it's dependency. For centuries, the Kremlin treated the Arctic as sacred and untouchable. Now it's forced to share control, not because it wants to, but because it has no choice. And Beijing isn't coming to save Russia, it's coming to extract resources. Behind the scenes, Russia is sliding into the role of junior partner, raw material supplier, cheap fuel station, and geopolitical buffer. The empire doesn't fall with explosions, but with contracts. When Finland's tunnels and Sweden's bridges are complete, historians will mark this moment clearly: Russia's strategic break from Europe. The Baltic has become a NATO lake, the Arctic a NATO wall. Putin's hybrid war doesn't end in victory. It crashes into concrete, steel, and surveillance.
The exits are blocked. The key is no longer in Moscow's hands. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe for future breakdowns and turn on notifications. History is moving fast, and we're tracking it in real time. Thank you for choosing us.